Good day to each and everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first video presentation for the chapter 2, no, of the subject fundamentals of criminal investigation with intelligence. Okay, so what are the topics that we will discuss in this video presentation? No, is all about the basic concepts and principles of criminal investigation. Okay, so ito po yung kasama doon po sa chapter 2 ng ating subject. Okay, so what is the scope of discussion? No? Dito sa video presentation na ito, we'll get the three, no? Three first topics, no? So we will discuss on this video about the basic concept on criminal investigation. Ano nga ba ang criminal investigation, no? And we'll also discuss the goals of criminal investigation, why criminal investigator investigate crimes, you know? Investigate a certain incident, okay? What is the goals? And third, what are the objectives of criminal investigation to include the specific objectives, okay? Then sa mga susunod na video, we will discuss also the major types of investigation, include the categories of investigation, as well as overt and covert investigation, the trichotomy or the body, mind, and soul of investigation, who is a criminal investigator, and what are the characteristics of a criminal investigator, what are the cardinal points in criminal investigation, or the 5 W's and 1 H. We'll also discuss the characteristics of competent criminal investigator, the golden rules for criminal investigators, the inquest requirements to be prepared by investigator. That's very, very important. That's why I do not miss the topics, no? And to include the definition of terms related to criminal investigation. Okay? So sit back, relax, and listen and take down notes while we discuss this topic, ladies and gentlemen. So our main focus for this video is about the basic concept of criminal investigation, goals of criminal investigation, and objective of criminal investigation. Okay? So what are the objectives? No? At the end of the lesson, you as the listeners should be able to classify and demonstrate basic concepts and principles of criminal investigation. You should classify criminal investigation as an art, whether it is a science, no, or a process. And you should also be able to discuss and execute the different procedures in criminal investigation. Okay, so you should be able to correctly discuss and, of course, execute, no, the investigation procedures. Then you should be able to demonstrate the qualities and functions of a good investigator. Number 4, you should fluently vocalize the cardinal points and the golden rules in criminal investigation. So later on, I will require you to have a report on specific topics, no? In order for me to evaluate or assess whether you have really learned something from our subject matters, especially in chapter 2. So those are the objectives. So it is expected that after you have finished this lesson, you should be able to demonstrate qualities of good investigator, fluently vocalize the cardinal points, and so on. Okay, so what are we waiting for? Let us start the topic. Okay, so let us discuss the etymology of the word investigation. Now, when I say etymology, it refers to the study of origin of words. Saan nga ba nanggaling ang salitang investigation? No? Investigation sa English, investigation. Okay? So first and foremost, the word investigation fundamentally derived from Latin word vistigum. No? The Latin word vistigum means footprints. So nakikita nyo naman doon sa baba, no? Footprints. And from the footprints, you know that you can track a person kung saan siya papunta through his footprints. Okay? And syempre, sa unang panahon noon, pagka gusto mong matrace kung saan galing yung isang tao, saan pumunta yung isang tao, you can trace that person through his or her footprints. And the word describing footprints that is being used to track or trace a certain person is Vestigum. Ayan, no? So vestigum, which means footprint. That is a Latin term, ladies and gentlemen. Then after which, nag-evolve po yung word na vestigum, naging vestigare, no? Vestigare in some books. It is a Latin which means to track or to trace. Because as what I have stated a while back, no? In vestigum, they are using the footprint to track a certain person. Di ba? Lalong-lalo na sa mga mapuputik na lugar. So you can track or trace a certain person via footprint. Then from vestigum, naging vestigare, which literally means in English to track, no? Or to trace. Wherein in investigation process, you will be able to determine later on that a certain investigator will track, no, will track or trace what happened, no? Will track or trace the criminal after identifying that person. You will track and trace what happened in order for you to know who are involved in a certain crime. No, you should be able to track or trace what happened in order for you to know, no, who is responsible for the commission of crime. Ayan, no? So, ang dami mong iti-trace or ita-track. Okay? Ayan. Then, nag-evolve pa yung pong word or Latin word na vestigare, naging investigare. No? In some term, investigare, or in some book, vestigare. Nang ibig sabihin naman nito, it is a Latin which means to search into, or to look into, or to search into. Yan. To search means to inquire, no? To conduct inquiry, yan, no? Para manghalungkat sa Tagalog, okay? It is also believed that the word investigation have also been derived, no, from the word investigate. So it is either from investigare directly or from the word investigate. Na ang ibig sabihin naman ng salitang investigate means to search or to inquire. Okay? Yan. So yung isa, investigare means to search into, to look into, to trace, no? To search. Ayan po, no? Then it may have also been derived from the word investigate, no? Latin word din yan, which means to search or to inquire. Okay? You inquire in order for you to know the facts and circumstances about a certain thing. Ayan. So the word investigation, ladies and gentlemen, na po mula sa vestigum, naging vestigare, then naging investigare, or it may have directly derived from investigate at saka po naging investigation. Okay? So yan po yung etymology or the origin of the word investigation. From vestigum to vestigare to investigare, or from the word investigate, then directly naging investigation. Okay? Kahit saan man galing yung word na investigation, parehas yung meaning nila, which means to search, no? To inquire, yan, to conduct an inquiry, yan. No? So ano naman ang investigation? Okay? What is investigation? Di ba? So, ikaw na-try mo na ba na magtanong sa shota mo nung isang gabi, saan siya galing? You are already trying to inquire something in order for you to gather the facts. Ha? Sabi mo sa shota mo, saan ka galing kagabi? Bakit gabing-gabi ka na umuwi? Di ba? So, anong tiningnan mo ang sagot ng iyong kasama? Anong sagot mo dito? You are trying to inquire. You are trying to gather facts or information. Once na nagtanong ka tungkol sa isang bagay, that is already inquiry. You are already searching something. Okay, that is already investigation, ladies and gentlemen. You want to discover the origin of a certain thing, no? That is investigation. Okay? Yan. So, you want to pass in a certain subject, you conducted search, no? What to do, no? How to do it, okay? So that is already investigation. You are trying to search something, okay? So tanong sa iyo, kapatid, kailan ka ba huling nag-search? Kailan ka ba huling nag-imbestiga? Okay? Mapa sa syota mo man, mapa sa kapatid mo, kailan nga ba? Okay? You are already conducting plain and simple investigation, ladies and gentlemen. So what is investigation? So tingnan po natin sa susunod na slide. What is investigation? Yeah? What is investigation? Pagka meron ka sa utak mo na hindi mo alam at gusto mong malaman ang kasagutan, kapatid, ano ang gagawin mo? You try to search. You try to inquire. You try to investigate. Tama po ba? Gusto mong masagot ang katanungan sa utak mo. Anong gagawin mo? May ginawa ka bang proseso para malaman mo yung gusto mong malaman? Then that is investigation. Okay, from that alone, you can define what is investigation. You want to search or inquire for the truth. In order for you to know the truth, you want to gather information to know the truth. Ha? Gusto mong kumalap ng impormasyon para malaman ang katotohanan. That is investigation. Okay? Pag tinanong mo yung nanay mo, nanay, bakit gano'n itsura ko? Saan ba ako galing? Galing ba talaga ako sa iyo? Di ba? Bakit ang gwapo ko sa paningin mo, pero ang pangit ko sa paningin ng nililigawan ko? Di ba? So, gusto mong malaman ang totoo kung saan ka galing. That is already investigation. You want to inquire. You want to search something. That is investigation. No? So, what is investigation? Okay? Investigation is a systematic and thorough examination. When you say systematic, there is a procedure, there is a system that is being followed, and careful examination and inquiry into something or someone. Ito ay sistematikong paraan ng pagtuklas at pag-examine, no, para matukoy ang isang bagay, isang pangyayari, or isang tao. That is investigation. So kung meron kang gustong masagot na katanungan, gusto mong malaman ang totoong nangyari, gusto mong malaman ang pangyayari, at nagkandak ka nga ng sistematikong pamamaraan, careful examination, that is investigation, my friend. Okay? Ano pa? Investigation may also pertain to a systematic. There is a system. Kasi nagtanong ka, what, who, why, how, where. Di ba? That is systematic manner of asking question. So it is a systematic and thorough, careful, ang thorough, no? Careful or thorough examination or inquiry into something or someone. Or it also pertains to the collection of facts. Ito yung pag-kolekta ng mga facts. Pag sinabi nating facts, isang bagay na pwedeng patunayan sa pamamagitan ng ebidensya. Something which can be shown to be true. Okay? Isang bagay na pwedeng patunayan sa pamamagitan ng ebidensya. Yan po'y katotohanan. Okay? And the recording of this examination or inquiry in a report. So that is a formal definition. No? It is already a detailed examination of investigation. Pero yung tinatanong ko kanina, no, na pagka ikaw po ay nagtanong sa iyong nanay, iyong tatay, kung kanino ka nga magaling dahil hindi ka nila itsura, that is already investigation. No? You can define investigation or you can give simple definition from that example. Because you are trying to inquire. Just put it in a systematic manner. Just put it in a careful investigation or careful inquiry, no? Or careful examination to arrive to the facts that you want to gather. Then that is already investigation, my friends. Okay? Pero kung nagtanong ka, gusto mong malaman ng isang bagay, that is already investigation. You want to discover the truth. Okay? Ano pa? It is a patient, okay? Systematic, patient kasi kailangan ng perseverance, kailangan mapagpasensya ka, no? Yan, kasi hindi agad-agad lilitaw yan. Systematic, okay? With a system, methodical, with proper methods, no, to be followed, and detailed inquiry and examination of all components, circumstances, and relationship pertaining to an incident. Okay? So, ang investigasyon, ito po ay kailangan po ng pasensya, no? Kailangan po ng systematic, methodical, and detailed inquiry para po matukoy yung pong tungkol sa isang pangyayari, no? So kailangan mong pagsama-samahin lahat ng components, no? Yung pong lahat ng katanungan na cardinal points kung tawagin in order for you to discover the truth about a certain incident. Okay, that is the different definition of the word investigation. Now, what is the difference of investigation to criminal investigation? That is far different from one another. Okay? Ayan. So kung investigation, that is generic term pertaining to a systematic and thorough examination or inquiry to something or someone. If you are already trying to examine a certain crime in order to discover the one who committed the crime, that is already criminal investigation. Yan, no? So, ano naman ang criminal investigation? Kung ang investigation, di ba, ay yun nga pong nabanggit natin, systematic and careful inquiry to discover the truth. What is criminal investigation, my friends? Okay, criminal investigation is an applied science. When we say science, it involves systematic process. Di ba? So, applied science, yan. So, it is being practiced. Okay, practical science, kumbaga, applied. Okay, when we say science, it involves systematic study. Yan. Masusing pag-aaral, yun po ang science. So, ito po ay masusing pag-aaral na naia-apply, sabi diyan, which involves the study of facts. Ito po ay tungkol sa pag-aaral ng facts. What we say, or when we say facts, it pertains to a certain thing or something which can be shown to be true. Ibig sabihin, ito ay katotohanan at pawang katotohanan lamang. Yun po yung pinag-aaralan. Okay? So bakit mo pinag-aaralan yung pong facts or yung pong truth? Okay? Truth tungkol sa isang bagay. Katotohanan tungkol sa isang pangyayari. In order for you to identify, locate, and prove the guilt of a criminal. So the purpose, why is it that you are gathering facts, ladies and gentlemen, for you to identify the people who are involved in a certain crime. Okay? To locate who? Criminal. Di ba? So, and prove the guilt of a criminal. Sino ba ang criminal? Ibig sabihin, bago may criminal, kailangan may investigasyon. Tama po kayo dyan. Okay? Why? Because based on your definition of a criminal, in your introduction to criminology, or even in your criminal justice system, criminal refers to a person who was finally convicted by a competent court. Finally convicted, meaning hindi na siya pwedeng makipag-apila sa mga mas mataas na korte. Last na yon. Dinesisyon na ng Supreme Court, hindi ka na pwedeng mag-apila. Kaya nga, finally convicted by a competent court for violation of criminal law. So before na ma-convict yung tao, kailangan po ng investigasyon. Tama. Bakit? Dahil yung pong mga impormasyon na nakalap doon sa investigasyon, yun po yung gagamitin para po ma-identify yung taong gumawa ng krimen, ma-locate, at syempre ma-prove yung kanyang guilt sa korte. So meaning to say, before there is a criminal, the law enforcers need a systematic study of facts for them to identify the person who committed the crime, locate the person, and prove the guilt in court. That is the purpose of criminal investigation. Okay? Next, no? Criminal investigation also involves the process of collecting crime-related information to reach certain goals. So what you are trying to gather, crime-related information. Pagka yung pong kinokolekta mong impormasyon is hindi po related sa crime, that is not criminal investigation. That is just, or that can be called as investigation. Pwedeng financial investigation kung tungkol lang sa pera yan. Di ba? O pwedeng background investigation kung tungkol sa background ng isang tao. Pero kung yung impormasyon na kinukuha mo ay crime-related, no? May kinalaman sa krimen, bakit ka kumakalap ng impormasyon? Dahil yun ay gagamitin mong ebidensya sa korte, gagamitin mo yun para matukoy kung sino ang gumawa ng krimen, that is considered as criminal investigation. Okay? So this simple definition has three primary components. What are the components of investigation? The process, okay, wherein you need to gather facts, okay, and what is being gathered? Crime-related information. And what is the goal? The goal is to identify, locate, and prove the guilt of a criminal. So tatandaan po, no? There is a process of gathering information. How to gather information? You should follow the process. What you will gather? Crime-related information. Okay? Evidence, ladies and gentlemen, if it is process, it will give information. So that is crime-related information. Okay? Generally called as crime-related information. Yan. What is the goal? The goal, why is it that you are trying to investigate, is to identify the people who are involved. Okay? Kasama ang biktima, syempre, para ma-identify mo kung sino ang gumawa sa krimen. Lalong-lalo na pagka yung pong kriminal ay hindi po alam yung pagkakakilanlan, first and foremost, what you do is to identify who is the victim. Para malaman mo kung ano ang motibo, bakit siya pinatay, gano'n, ano? So pagka sa goals, no, to identify the guilty party na do not only pertains to the one who perpetrated the crime, no, to those party who are involved in a certain crime actually. Yan. Pero yung gumawa, siya yung pinaka-guilty, syempre. Then, of course, crime-related information, then you have the goals. Tatandaan nyo yung goals ng investigasyon. Okay? Doon naiiba po doon sa ibang klase ng investigation. Because we have different investigation also. It is conducted by legislative body, no? Or the Congress. Sa ibang porte, ang tawag nila kasi sa investigation is research. Ayan. Pero sa criminology at doon po sa military, ang tawag natin investigation. No? Sa ibang college or sa ibang field, no? Then, ang ginagamit nilang term research, but that is actually investigation also. Okay? So, ano pa? Investigation also pertains to an activity that collects facts and circumstances to accomplish the threefold aim of investigation. And what are the aims of investigation? To identify who the guilty party, to identify if you have identified him or her, to locate the guilty party, saan sila naroroon, kailangan malaman mo. Para sa ganun, ma-aresto mo sila. And of course, to provide evidence for his guilt. Okay, take note. It is an activity that collect facts and circumstances. Ang hinahanap po, kahit bali-balik na rin man, yung pong definition ng investigation, alam mo na, no? It is the collection of facts. To what? To identify the guilty party, locate, and to prove the guilt of a certain person who committed the crime. Tandaan po yan, no? Another. Sabi naman ni Dr. Hans Gross, no, tama yung definition ng investigation. Why? Sabi niya, because searching the truth is the fundamental requirement in giving justice. That's why in investigation, ang hinahanap po dito ay katotohanan. Para sa ganon ay malaman kung ano ang totoong nangyari para maibigay ang hustisya doon po sa karapat-dapat na pagbigyan ng hustisya. Okay, so yun po yung sabi ni Dr. Hans Gross. Diba? So criminal investigation is a legal inquiry also by virtue of a complaint to follow up, examine, track, or search step by step that is systematic, patient and meticulous observation of fact of commission of crime and identify of the actor. So nakita niyo yung mga definition ng criminal investigation, It is a systematic process of gathering facts for the purpose of identifying, locating, and proving the guilt of a certain person who committed the crime. Pag bali-balik ta rin man ang mundo, yun pa rin ang definition, mga kapangarap. Okay? Yan. So there are generally ways that a person can be brought to justice for criminal act. First, and probably the least likely, the individual will be driven by his or her conscience, no, immediately to confess. Second, the officer, law enforcement officer have apprehended him or her. Then third, the most common, criminal investigation can identify a person as a suspect, after which he may be confessed or be convicted during the trial. Kasi marami po, no, na gumagawa ng krimen na kung saan base sa ebidensyang nakuha ng investigador sila, pero pagka nagkaroon ng plea bargaining, hindi po nila inaamin, pero dahil sa mga ebidensya na ipinipresenta ng ating prosecutor na prinubide ng investigador, then pwedeng makonvict yung pong isang tao sa korte para siya itawaging criminal. Diba? So, tatandaan niyo po yan. So, before a certain person will become criminal, no, it is needed that that person should be finally convicted by a competent court, and that person can only be convicted through the facts and evidence that was gathered by the investigator. So, napaka-importante po ang trabaho ng investigador. Okay? Yan. Napaka-interesting pa. Diba? So next, slide po tayo. Is criminal investigation an art, a science, or a process? Sa tingin nyo, ano kaya? Ito kaya ay art, diba? Science, o proseso? Or lahat? Okay. So tingnan natin. Is criminal investigation an art? Is it a science? Or is it a process? May proseso. Yan. Criminal investigation is an art because it involves the felicity or inspiration, no, towards work, yung kagustuhan ng investigador na gawin yung trabaho, pagmamahal sa kanyang trabaho, art daw, no? Or intuition, or yung paggamit ng perception, or yung gut feeling, no? Then yung pong luck. No, swerte mo kapag maraming ebidensyang naiwan, malas mo pagka halos you are facing a blank wall, like yan. So that's why it is considered as an art, because it does not involve systematic procedure. Bahala ka kung sino ang yung uunahing tanungin. Sino ang uunahin mong interviewin. Kaya nga meron pang sinasabi na sa pag-interview, meron pong art of interview and interrogation. Hindi po sinabing science, because there is no specific technique that you will use in questioning. Ano? So wala ding sinabi yung po sa investigation na mauuna mo nang tanungin yung pong suspect bago mo tanungin yung victim, mauuna yung victim bago yung suspect, gano'n. So wala pong gano'n, ano? That's why it is considered as an art. Second, why is it that it is considered as an art? Aside from it involves felicity, inspiration, intuition. Pag sinabi kasi nating science, if you will repeat certain science, you will repeat the procedure, the result is the same. Okay? Pag balik ta rin mo man, pagka sinunod mo ang proseso, pag sinabi nating science, no? When you follow the step, the result is the same. For example, case number 1, sinunod mo yung ganitong proseso, inuna mong in-interview yung suspect, sumunod yung biktima, sumunod yung witnesses, okay? Convicted, yung pong accused. In-apply mo sa pangalawa, sigurado ka ba na yung resulta dun sa una ay ganun din ang resulta sa pangalawa? Hindi. Kaya po sinawag siyang art, mga kapatid. Art. Okay? So it involves felicity, inspiration, intuition, and luck. And at the same time, there is no systematic procedure that is being followed, and the result is not absolute. Okay? At the same time, it is also considered as a science. Some believe that criminal investigation is considered as a science. Why? Because of the systematic study that is involved. There is a systematic study. There is a specific procedure that you will follow, sabi doon. If you will gather the evidence, after gathering the evidence, you need that the evidence should be examined. Sa pag-examine, meron pong specific procedure na sinusunod. That's why it is considered as a science, because there is a step-by-step procedure. There is a systematic study. Kaya po siya tinatawag pong science. Di ba? So ano ba ang mga reason kung bakit siya tinawag na science? It involves systematic method of inquiry. Okay? Second, investigator primarily use or apply scientific knowledge in principles in methodologies. For example kasi, no, pagka nag-iimbestiga ka, yung pong pag-lift ng fingerprint, paano ka-classify ang fingerprint, so, siyempre, scientific knowledge po yun. No? Yan. It also includes the knowledge in principles and methodologies to discover, identify, and process the facts. Okay, tama? No? Ganun po ang dahilan bakit sa tinatawag pong science, ladies and gentlemen. No? Okay, at the same time, criminal investigation is a process or there is a method that is being followed. It is a process. Okay, sunod-sunod. Hindi po pwedeng laktawan. There is a chain. Okay? There is a chain that should be followed. No? Hindi po pwedeng mauuna po yung presentation of evidence bago po yung identification of information. Okay? There is a process. Ano yung process na yun? It is considered as a process, no? Because criminal investigation involves the process of identification or recognition of facts. Yun daw po ang mauuna. Okay? So you need to identify or recognize facts or pieces of evidence. Hindi ka pwedeng magkolekta nang hindi mo pa na-identify. So you need to identify facts and pieces of evidence. Second, you need to collect the piece of evidence that you have identified, or you need to collect the facts. Okay? And of course, you need to preserve. That is preservation of evidence. Preservation. Of course, kung nakolekta mo, you need to preserve the evidence. How will you preserve the evidence that you have gathered? Especially yung pong mga physical evidence. Kasi meron tayong documentary evidence, meron po tayong tinatawag pong testimonial evidence, meron pong physical evidence. So how will you preserve? By observing what we call as chain of custody of evidence. So proseso talaga. Mauunang i-identify mo daw muna, bago mo kolektahin, bago mo i-preserve, then evaluate mo sa crime laboratory. Okay, this is pertaining to the physical evidence. So you need to evaluate, okay, ano yung importante na magagamit sa kaso, ano yung hindi, ano yung resulta ng evaluation, nagtugma ba yung pong ballistics report, nagtugma ba yung pong tingga na nakuha sa crime scene, at yung pong tingga na standard na ipinutok sa suspected firearm. So that is evaluation. And of course, last but not the least, you need to present the evidence in court to prove the guilt of the perpetrator. That's why it is called a process. Okay? However, mostly of authors in investigation, ladies and gentlemen, states that investigation is a mixture of an art and a science. Okay? So it is an art and a science. Okay? Kasi kung may proseso, sabi nila, it is also a science. Kasi nga may procedure. So sabi naman ng iba, it is a mixture of an art and a science. Kailangan mo ng felicity, intuition, and luck. However, you also need to follow the systematic procedure, especially when it comes to the physical evidence. Okay? Yan. Para po doon po sa result ng investigation, no, ay magiging credible. You need to follow the systematic procedure. Okay? So yun po yung sabi ng ibang author. So criminal investigation can be an art, a science, or a process. Depends on your perception and depends on your evaluation. And it depends on how you will defend your answer. Okay? If it is an art, a science, or a process. But for me, for my personal opinion only, criminal investigation is a combination of both an art and science. Okay, personal opinion. Yan, no? So, may art siyang kahalo, may science din. So, wag nang mag-awa yung pong mga iba't ibang author kasi parehas din naman yan. Okay? Yan. Susunod, what are the goals of criminal investigation? Bakit po kailangan mag-imbestiga? Ano nga ba ang goal? Ano nga ba ang dahilan? Okay? Yan. So, it is more generic than objectives. So, pagka-specific, di ba? Objectives. Yan. So, bakit po nag-iimbestiga? Bakit mag-iimbestiga ang mga law enforcement agencies? Why? Why they need to conduct investigation? Gastos lang yan. Matrabaho lang yan. Puro papeles yan. Di ba? So, first, okay, goal of investigation, no, is to determine whether a crime has been committed. Yan. So, determine, baka may nag-report naman, baka gawa-gawa lang yung kwento. Okay? To determine whether a crime has been committed or baka naman aksidente yung nangyari. Yan. So you need to conduct investigation about a certain incident that was reported to determine whether a crime has been committed. Ano ba ang crime? I know that you already know what is crime. That's why I did not define it here, no? But later on I will define it, pero pasadahan lang natin. Crime is an act committed or omitted in violation of public law forbidding or commanding it. Dalawa po ang pamamaraan ng pag-commit ng crime. Okay? It is either by dulo, intentional, or by culpa. Yan, no? Crime is an act committed or omitted in violation of public law forbidding or commanding it. So, if you have committed an act which is forbidden by law, that is crime. If you have omitted an act which is commanded by law, that is crime. So, sa madalit sabi sa Tagalog, pagka ginawa mo ang isang bagay na ipinagbabawal ng batas, krimen yun. Pag hindi mo ginawa yung isang bagay na ipinag-uutos ng batas, krimen pa rin yun. So, ang goal ng isang investigador ay tingnan kung nangyari or may nangyari bang krimen o wala naman. For example, meron pong isang lalaki na kanyang kinakantot ang kanyang kalabaw sa gitna ng kanyang 10 hectares na bukid. Okay? Kinakantot niya. Yung kalabaw ay nakangiti. Nakangiti. Ngayon, yung pong tao na yun ay inaresto po ng arresting officer. Ikaw yung investigating officer. So pag-imbestiga mo, nakakita mo, unang-unang titignan mo dyan, is there a crime that was committed? Okay? I-apply mo na yung natutunan mo. Yung pong tinatawag nating legality principle or yung pong logomacy principle. Tandaan, ito, no? Yung pong Latin maxim, nolum crimen nulla poena sine lege. There is no crime where there is no law punishing such. Walang batas na nagbabawal doon. Sana fa-filean mo siya ng kaso ng cruelty to animals. Pero sabi ng mga arresting officer, nung naabutan nila yung matanda na kumakantot ng kalabaw niya, nakangiti yung kalabaw, kaya hindi po pwedeng cruelty to animals. Is there a crime that was committed? It's up to you to investigate. Di ba? Pero doon, wala. Bakit? Unang-una, no? Walang batas na nilabag yung pong matanda. Di ba? So, natutunan mo naman sa legality principle, nolum crimen nulla poena sine lege. No crime when there is no law punishing such. Kung walang batas na nagbabawal sa kanyang ginawa, pues hindi krimen yun. Pakawalan mo. Kasi baka yung pang mga pulis or arresting officer ang kasuhan mo. Diba? Yan. So, next, to legally obtain information or evidence. Okay? You investigate in order for you to obtain information as desired and evidence that you can use in court. Ano pa? To identify persons involved. When I say identify persons involved, I have stated a while back, you need to identify the identity of those involved, including the victims. Importante yun, lalong-lalo na pagka hindi po alam yung pagkakakilanlan ng suspect, kailangan ma-identify muna yung biktima para sa ganun ay makita kung ano ang motibo, bakit nangyari yung krimen. You need to identify first the victim, no, so that you will be able to establish what is the motive. Why is it that the victim was victimized? Okay, ganon. No? So, witnesses and, of course, the perpetrator is the most important part. Okay, so you are also trying to investigate in order for you to gather facts, to identify the perpetrator, and after identifying, you need also to investigate to locate kung saan nagtatago for the arrest of suspects. Suspect, take note, ladies and gentlemen, pinaghihinalaan pa lang pagka inaresto mo yung isang tao, inaresto ng isang pulis, no? O inaresto ng pulis ang isang tao, ang tawag sa kanya suspect, pinaghihinalaan pa lamang sapagkat hindi pa siya convicted. Pagka na-filean sa prosecution, anong tawag ninyo? Respondent. Pagka na-filean ng kaso doon po sa korte, anong tawag? Akusado. Okay? Pagkatapos ng korte na ibigay ang hatol, ang walang bahid ng pag-aalinlangan ng kataas-taas ang korte, saka pa lang siya pwedeng tawaging criminal if he was already finally convicted and can no longer appeal. Next, no? The purpose why is it that you are investigating in crimes against property is to discover also, no, kung saan itinago yung pong mga stolen properties. And one of the purpose of investigation is to recover stolen properties. And last but not the least, no, is to present best possible case to the prosecutor. Of course, if there is sufficient information or facts that was gathered, then you can present the best possible case to the prosecutor. Please take note, the purpose of the prosecutor is to determine whether there is a probable cause to believe that the crime was being committed and the respondent is probably guilty thereof, so that the prosecutor will present or will prepare criminal information, and that criminal information will be filed with the prosecutor in court. Tandaan nyo po yon, mga kapangarap. Okay, so those are the goals of criminal investigation. Okay, so let's proceed to the next slide. So sana po natututo kayo, no? So ano naman po yung objectives of criminal investigation? Ano ang pinaka-objective? Ano ang gustong mangyari? Ano ang dahilan bakit ginagawa ang investigasyon ng ating kapulisan? Okay? Ayan. So, sabi doon sa book ni Bennett and Hess, the obvious objective of criminal investigation is to discover who done it. Yung pong perpetrator, para madiscover daw kung sino ang gumawa sa isang krimen. Yun po yung kauna-unahang dahilan daw or objective ng investigasyon para malaman kung sino ang gumawa sa isang karumal-dumal na krimen. Okay? Pero under the PNP setting, ladies and gentlemen, there are three objectives of criminal investigation as follows. Number one, you are trying to investigate in order for you to identify the guilty party, which is the main focus of preliminary investigation. Diba? You are conducting crime scene investigation or lifting fingerprints at the crime scene in order for you to identify whose fingerprint of that is that, and of course, to identify who is the one who committed the crime. Why is it that you are gathering pieces of information? Bakit ka nagtatanong doon po sa witness? Bakit mo ipoproseso yung ebidensya? Ano? Para malaman at matukoy kung sino ang gumawa sa isang krimen. Tandaan, yan po yung unang objective, to identify the guilty party. Second objective, to trace and locate the guilty party. Okay, of course, kapag ka nalaman kung sino, yung pong taong nasangkot doon po sa paggawa ng krimen, subalit hindi mo matukoy kung saan naroroon, kailangan mong mag-conduct ulit ng tinatawag na follow-up investigation. Para ano? Para matrace, matrack, okay? Para matukoy kung saan siya nagtatago. Para sa ganon ay maaresto mo na siya. So kasama po dito sa pangalawa, no? To trace, locate, and of course, eventually, if you have located the guilty party, ikakasa mo na yung pong pag-aresto doon po sa tao. Yan, no? And of course, pag na-aresto na yan, then next po is to provide evidence of criminal guilt by gathering pieces of information. Ayan po, no? Yan po yung purpose ng tinatawag po natin na final investigation. Ayan, ano? So those are the three main objectives of criminal investigation, ladies and gentlemen, under the PNP setting. Okay, so take note of the objectives of criminal investigation under PNP setting to identify the guilty party or who are involved in a certain crime, to trace and locate the guilty party, and to provide evidence of criminal guilt. That is under the PNP setting. Okay? So, sunod, a dozen of more specific things to be accomplished during the course of investigation. Ito po yung mga ginagawa na specific na mga bagay during investigation. First, no, as an investigator on case, you should determine whether a crime has been committed. Siyempre, yun ang unang-una. Alamin mo kung may krimen nga bang nangyari. Sabi ko nga, magbase ka doon po sa legality principle. Nolum crimen nilo buena sinilihe. If there is no law punishing the act that was committed, then there is no crime that was committed. Okay, second, verify a criminal complaint is bona fide. Totoo nga ba? Totoo nga ba na nangyari yung pong dinala sa inyong opisina na complaint? Hindi kaya gawa-gawa lamang. Ayan, baka naman hold up yourself. Di ba? So meron bang ganon? Yes, nangyayari yun sa maraming pagkakataon. Sasabihin na siya po ay na-hold up, pero yun pala, hinold up niya yung kanyang sarili, inuntok niya yung kanyang sarili, or sinuntok niya yung kanyang sarili. Is the complaint bona fide? Of course, no. You victimize yourself. Okay. Next, legally obtain information and evidence to identify the criminal offender. So specific, no, no course of action. So legally obtain information and pieces of evidence to legally identify the criminal offender. So legally, meaning to say you have followed the rules and regulations using the rights of the person detained, no, accused and under custodial investigation. Legal na pagkuha ng impormasyon. Hindi po pwedeng mag-torture dahil yan ay violation sa ating Bill of Rights. Okay? Then, of course, eventually arrest the suspect after you have already identified him or her. You have traced and locate the location, then you arrest the suspect. Reconstruct the crime scene through crime scene investigation. Okay, we have the so-called scene of the crime operation here in the Philippines. In other countries, it's called this crime scene investigation that is being done in order for us to reconstruct the crime scene to determine what happened. Okay, yan. Then obtain admission or confession by means of interrogation. What is the difference between admission and confession? Admission, ladies and gentlemen, is admitting some facts and circumstances. Ito po ay ina-apply sa isang suspect kung saan siya po'y papaaminin. Pag inamin lahat-lahat ng pangyayari o kaya direkta na inamin yung isang krimen o paggawa ng isang krimen ang tawag ng confession. Pagka ang inamin ay mangilan-ngilang katotohanan lamang, that is admission. For example, ng admission. Ando ka ba sa crime scene nung nangyari ang krimen? Opo. Ba? Nakita mo ang pangyayari? Opo. Ikaw ang gumawa ng krimen? Hindi po. O, admitting some facts. Mangilan-ngilang facts lang ang inamin. Pagka confession, pagka tinanong, ikaw ba ang gumahasa? Opo. Ibig sabihin, nasa crime scene ka. Parang baliwala na yung mga susunod na tanong. No? Kasi siya nga ang gumahasa. Siyempre, andun siya sa crime scene. Ba? Direktang pag-amin kasi ang confession. Direct acknowledgement of guilt, confession. Admitting some facts, that is admission. Okay, maliwanag po. Then recover stolen properties and missing abducted person. Of course, pagka na-interrogate mo yung pong isang suspect at siya po ay umamin, then you can recover the stolen properties to include the missing and abducted person if any, depending on the crime. No? Establish the motive and or intent of the offender. Bakit kaya ginawa ang krimen? No? Kailangan establish mo yung motive, ano yung intent, no? Para po meron kang idea paano pigilan later, no? Yung pong existence ng ganung klase ng krimen. Ano kaya ang motibo? Ano ang intensyon? Kasi yun po ay gagamitin mo rin bilang ebidensya sa korte. Okay, determine and analyze the modus operandi of criminals. Modus operandi is also known as mode of operation. Okay, what is the mode of operation? Paano isinasagawa ang isang krimen? Okay, ano ang kanyang modus operandi or sa plural, modi operandi. Sa English, mode of operation. Sa Tagalog, paano ang pagsasagawa sa isang krimen? Ano kaya ang kanyang modus operandi? Para sa ganon, ay malaman po ng publiko kung ano man ang mga modus operandi. Para sa ganon ay mapigilan yung pong pagkalat ng ganong klase ng krimen. Susunod, determine the gravity of the offense or extent of damage to the victim. Gaano kagrabe? O, di ba? Gravity. Gravity ang lit na. Hindi po yun. No? So, determine the gravity. Gaano kabigat yung offense na nakomit. Anong specific offense yung nakomit? Okay, gaano kabigat? Ito ba'y light lamang? Diba? Pagpatay yan, homicide ba? Murder ba? Infanticide? Parricide? Or the like. Okay? And next is to obtain probable cause for purposes of securing warrant. And so, as I have discussed to you in the previous video presentation, for a certain police officer to secure warrant of arrest or search warrant, you need probable cause because it is needed by the judge, no? Yung probable cause, yan po yung quantum of evidence needed by the judge before he will issue a warrant of arrest or search warrant after oath in affirmation of the complainant and witnesses that may be produced by the law enforcers. No? So, kailangan mo ng quantum of evidence, probable cause. Yan, no? And of course, last but not the least is to present the best possible case to the prosecutor. So, those are the dozen. No? Yun po yung bumubuo sa 12 specific things that must be accomplished during the course of investigation. At sana po meron kayong natutunan mula po dito sa ating short video presentation. At kung merong natutunan, huwag naman kalimutan mag-subscribe. I-click mo na rin yung bell button para sa ganun ay ma-update ka kung merong bagong videos na aking i-upload. Thank you very much and God bless you all. Once again, ito po ang inyong kapangarap, kakampi at kabalitaan sa aming Bengwasan Estoque. God bless you, ladies and gentlemen.